What's up, guys? So, highly anticipated day has arrived. The Shark Demons will be here today. They are currently on the UPS truck out for delivery. We're going to be removing our Baja Designs LP6s and replacing them with Custom Dynamics Shark Demon lighting system. I personally have a feeling they're going to be equally, if not slightly better, as far as the installation goes, because Custom Dynamics always makes things much easier on the user end for plug and play. The Baja Designs with the wiring harness that a specific company that I'm not even going to mention anymore, that they send out requires you to cut wiring and splice it and crimp it and melt it and do all that. I have a feeling Custom Dynamics is probably going to be a lot more user-friendly for you guys that aren't too comfortable doing electrical stuff. So what we need to do to get ready is just remove our outer fairing, get all that out of the way, get our lighting removed, get the brackets off, and then as soon as the Shark Demons show up, we can get those put on the bike. All right, guys, so here we are. We just did our unboxing video live on YouTube, going through the different components and everything. This is gonna be pretty similar to the LP6 install. Now we have our new Custom Dynamics bracket here, and we're going to take one of the factory bolts that came out of the factory headlight. We're going to take, we're going to take two of those, two of these guys, and we're going to mount those to the top. And you want this hook here, you want this facing outwards, okay? So we're just gonna push all of our wiring and everything up in there so it's up and out of the way. Hand thread them in like so. And we're gonna wanna make sure that our OEM harness, our Delphi 4-pin right here, you're gonna wanna make sure that's accessible because that's what our lights are plugging into. I cannot express the amount of gratitude and excitement for people that are gonna be installing these in their bike, how much simpler this is than installing a Baja Designs harness. For those of you that aren't super familiar with electrical work, this is right up your alley for an install because it does not take the amount of work that those other harnesses take for the LP6s. So if you're not too familiar with the wiring on a motorcycle, this is definitely the route you want to go, is with Custom Dynamics, because they have taken the guesswork out of it for you and they have made it so easy to install their lighting. So we'll just get these started. There we go. Yeah, these are just 3/16 Allen bolt heads. We'll just get these started You don't want to torque these down all the way just yet. Cinch them down all the way, I should say. So now we got those top two started. We can move on to the next step. And if you haven't yet already, there's a left and a right side bracket that comes in the kit. Underneath the lighting that was packaged in here, we had our main bracket that you just saw, and then we have a left and a right side mounting bracket. And you're gonna wanna take one of these, and you're gonna wanna take the hardware that comes in the bag, this hardware right here. So you're gonna take that hardware, so you're gonna just mount it like that. And I'll show you one here in just a second. So this hardware is going to be our mounting hardware from the lights to the main bracket. And then these two are going to be our bottom bolts for the bottom of the main bracket straight to the bike. And then we have another package of hardware, some washers and bolts, and these are going to be what you use to mount this bracket to your lighting. And you want to orient this because there is a top and a bottom, and it'll say right here, it'll say top. So it's gonna go like this. So you want obviously your wiring through the back, through the opening, and then you see how there's a square right here, this corner. You want to make sure that's facing inwards to each other when they're mounted. So we have, say this is the side of the bike, and then we're going to have the other one right here. You want that in a reverse order. So you put 2 bolts and a washer on each side like that. You want to make sure these are your adjustment bolts. You want to make sure that those are left a little bit loose so we can move and adjust our light. Once it's mounted, we can adjust exactly where our beam is going to go. Once it's mounted on the bike, just make sure you leave these ones where you have those swivel cutouts right there. Just make sure those are left a little bit loose to where these are still, you know, easily adjustable. All right, so we just need to do the other side now. Same way, 2 bolts each side, and leave that one that's gonna be closest to you a little bit loose. All right, so now that we got both of our lights mounted to their brackets, we are going to take Y-split harness. Looks like this. It's literally the only harness in the box. This is going to, the true definition of plug and play, that is going to plug directly into your bike's Delphi connector, just like that. One and done, easy peasy, other than plugging these 2 into the back of the lights. But they have made, I am so remarkably proud and baffled at the same time at Custom Dynamics. Being able to take these 2 high-powered lights and run them off of the one harness, rather than having to wire a whole 6 feet of harness through the neck of your bike, down the frame, and to the battery directly, and having to solder a bunch of nonsense. No more stuff like this, where you can see right here. No more of this. They've taken that nonsense out of the equation. This is literally the hardest part of your wiring job, and that's just plugging it in to your 4-pin Delphi connector. What you're gonna want to do is tuck this back up in there like so. You're gonna want one of these popping out on each side, and then our lights can just plug directly into these here. We can start mounting our lights. We're going to take these little bolts right here. These are just gonna mount into the bottom. You're gonna leave these a little bit loose because these are gonna have to come back off in just a minute to put the finishing exterior bracket on. These are just gonna go right in here in the bottom. Just gonna keep the bracket more stable while we mount the lights onto this bracket. And like I stated before, there is gonna be a left and a right side. The left side is going to be the side with this corner sticking out. It's the only space on there that's sticking out. And the reason for that is because these holes in the brackets, here in the bottom, these two here, these holes are going to line up with places on this bracket. So now that we got that, we're gonna take these little guys here. Each one of these gets a crush washer, and these are what's going to hold the Shark Demon lighting onto the Road Glide bracket. Now these you will want to put a dab of Loctite so they don't come loose on you. You're going to want to plug these in before we start mounting them. Just going to line these up with our holes on the main bracket. All right, so as you can see, those corners I was talking about, those are going to line up with each other right down there at the bottom. And then we're just going to finish going around these bolt holes down here on each side. One up here in the corner, and then one right here. Have a total of 8, 4 on each side. So we'll finish putting those on, and then we will connect our battery, our negative terminal. We will reconnect it and make sure the lighting is working before we proceed any further. All right, so now that we got all 8 bolts in, the 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom on each side, before we tighten these down, we're gonna wanna make our final adjustments. And in order to do that, we need to hook our negative battery terminal back up so we can turn the lights on and make sure they're working. Now, with anything electrical, you always want to make sure you take your 50 amp fuse out of your side cover. That's your main bike fuse. You always want to make sure that's out when you're doing anything electrical. Boom. Lights are working. That's low beam, high beam. And they are definitely bright. I'll tell you that. So we'll go ahead and do our final adjustments. I'm gonna back the bike all the way up to my toolboxes over there, and then we'll use the garage door as a point of reference to get these lined up. So you want them pretty much straight ahead from 15 feet out, and then angled just slightly downwards. I'm guessing those are probably going to be pretty spot on right there. All right, guys, we are in the final home stretch. Got the seat put back on. We made our adjustments on the lighting. Everything is where it needs to be. We are going to take, very carefully, you'll take your finishing bracket. It's the last thing in the box. It's at the very bottom. It's this piece right here. You're gonna take that out very carefully because it can bend easily. We're gonna take those bottom bolts, we didn't tighten down all the way. We're gonna undo those now. And we're gonna put our finishing bracket on, which is going to hide all of these bolts, and it's going to add a level of protection up here with a weather seal. So get those out. And now would be a good time to add your Loctite to these. Just like that. We can take our last little bolt and crush washer, and there's a little space up here. And these don't need to be over tightened either, guys, because you got your Loctite in there. You don't want to over tighten these and pull the threading out of the back of the bracket. And then we'll take our weather stripping, which is this piece here, that rubber piece, and that's just going to mount right to the top up here. So that's how it should look once it's done. And then we'll get our outer fairing put back on. All right, guys. So we got the install done. Everything's hooked back up. We got the new Custom Dynamics Shark Demon lighting in. Here is the after for the before and after. So just a reminder, here was before. And you guys tell me which is brighter. Like I said, it's hard to say for sure because one was an amber and a clear, and then we got two clears now. So there's brights. One thing's for certain, I will say one thing that these do much better with than the Baja Designs is the ditch to ditch 180 coverage on the light beam. And that's due to the lighting coming out of the sides here. You can see those two LEDs there. And then same on this light as well. It was complete coverage, a giant line all the way across the garage, the entire span of the garage. So you think about when you're on the road, you're gonna have one side of the road to the other of just a nice bright strip of light, which is what we're looking for. We want coverage from lane to lane, shoulder to shoulder, because we want to see any obstacles that are on the shoulders of the roads at night.
The next day.
All right, guys, so as you can see, install's done. It's the next day. Final thoughts on the Shark Demon by Custom Dynamics compared to the LP6 by Baja Designs. All right, number one of the biggest differences is the price. $9.99 versus Baja's anywhere from $14.99 to $1,700 for the Baja Designs kit. So that's a $600 to $700 difference. Okay, that's like 30 to 40%. Number two, the ease of installation. As you saw, this is 10 times easier to install than the Baja Designs LP6s were. With that kit, you had to remove your lighting, you know, everything we did. On top of that, you have to run a 5 to 6 foot wiring harness through the neck of your bike, down to your battery, and hook it directly to your battery, which means removing your tank, getting into your rat's nest of wiring, They require soldering points, crimping connections to the ends for your battery terminals. I mean, it's not a terrible amount of work, but it's definitely a lot more than one harness that plugs directly into the factory 4-pin plug that's already there, plugging that in, and then just plugging that into these two lights. So to me, it's a no-brainer, especially for those that don't want to go through that extra headache and those couple hours of extra work. Now, as far as the performance, like you just saw, I personally think the Bajas might be slightly, like not terribly noticeably brighter, maybe slightly brighter, but it's a much wider and more all over the place type of light. But it's not focused like you see with this. You saw that nice beam of light that goes shoulder to shoulder, and it's nice and bright, and it's fixated exactly where your eyes are going to be on the road. And you're not going to be blinding the hell out of other drivers. Which brings me to another point, and this one's for the Californians watching this and the people who have states that regulate the hell out of what you do to your motorcycle. And that is, Custom Dynamics is the only company that has DOT approval to run this style of lighting on road motorcycles. So I've heard of people getting tickets from having the Baja designs on their road glides, on their street glides. You know, I've heard it from multiple people that they get tickets for their lighting, and to me, that's not worth it. If I'm constantly getting pulled over and getting a ticket for my lighting, I don't know if it's really worth it. I gotta give it to Custom Dynamics on this one for those big 3 points: price, ease of installation, and then the DOT approval. Here in Utah, they don't care what we put on our motorcycles, but that law may change in the future, so who really knows? So yeah, I hope this video helped you guys out in making a decision, and if you already purchased your Shark Demons from Custom Dynamics, you're gonna love them. I hope this video serves you well and helps you with the installation. Shout out to Custom Dynamics, to everybody that tunes in and watches these videos. If it wasn't for you guys, all this would just fall on deaf ears. So much love from Utah. You guys take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And unlike my Niners that lost, we definitely won with the Custom Dynamics Shark Demon. Peace out.